Okay, it says I'm live. I don't know if I am. Hi guys, if you're seeing this. I don't know if my settings are right. I have a feeling that I've got this on private because I did a test just now. Let me take a look. There'll be a slight lag. Um, Also, you're going to hear my tummy rumble a lot because I haven't eaten anything today. Let's have a look. If I can find it on this screen, then shall be laughing. Okay, yeah, okay. So this is 14 people watching, which means it's not just me. Okay, good. Right, I'm going to be looking at the chat on this screen over here. So give me a second because there's a slight lag between these things. I have had a day today. I've had a day. Oh, right. Okie dokie. I'm just waiting for it to come up on my screen over here. I'm sorry about this. I'm only going to be here for like an hour today. I just wanted to check in and kind of talk to you guys because that was great. There I am. Oh, that's weird. I don't know if I like the angle on that. You can see a lot of my messy room. Okay. So, who do I have here today? So, hello, Hayden, my friend. Hayden, I looked at your edits just now. I know you know that anyway because because you were replying to me. They're amazing. So there are some amazing Wonder edits that Hayden did, which I am going to put on Twitter in a bit. At the moment, I'm trying to keep my timeline mostly to do with what's going on in Gaza, but I will put that up. Hello, Emily. Hello, Storystruck. Hello, Annie. Annie, I know you have to go in a bit. Don't worry. Thank you for being here. Hello, Joseph. Yep, I could not remember. I could not forget you. No, I couldn't remember you. Vendela Gold. Hello. Serial Davies. Hello, everyone. Wanda. Oh, what a name. I wish I was called Wanda. Emily, you've been watching for about 6 years. That's awesome. Lauren Targaryen. Hi, Claudia. So glad I can catch you live. Oh, it's so good to know that you guys are here. I have had a stressful day today. I probably shouldn't get into it too much on here because it's so unbelievably stressful. But do you ever been in one of those situations where you feel so helpless about something? Like something bad is happening. And this is not obviously on the bigger scale of things, Gaza. Like I'm going to talk about that on here as well. But when like, oh, you feel so helpless and so worried and there's nothing you can do, is just horrible. And again, that kind of feels ridiculous, me even saying that when Gaza's going through what it is, because that's the ultimate example of that, really, isn't it? But I've been going through that today. Wanda, it's a common Polish name. It's actually pronounced with a hard V, like Vonda. Vonda. I love that. Vonda. That's a lovely name. Vonda. I like that pronunciation. Okay, so I don't really know what I'm here for, essentially. I mean, I wanted to check in. I'm going to try and open Twitter over here and hope that it doesn't just play out loudly because there's been some disturbing content on Twitter. I'll make sure that's off. So as always, I'm going to put when I put this up properly, there's going to be a link to medical aid for Palestinians and the Oxfam appeal for Gaza. Gaza is still currently under bombardment. So what actually happened? I need to find this stuff. I'm sorry if I'm really not on it today. I have had a stressful day dealing with evil. So okay, let's have a look. So basically, I think you probably already know that the internet was turned off. The Israeli authorities they turned off the internet in Gaza. Now the internet is now back in some places because some people that I'm following from Palestine are able to contact us. But there was that horrible dark period of time where all their communication went off. And we were only able to see on the news channels like a distant shot of the Gaza skyline being bombed, but nothing from inside. So journalists inside the strip, like the people who are telling us what's happening, just couldn't get through to us whatsoever. That was very scary, and I can't imagine what that must have been like for them with no power. To be bombed, it's such a horrible, awful situation, and I'm so angry about it. Like Suella Braverman this morning, let me open this again because I can't see your comments and stuff. Suella Braverman this morning, or today, I've seen, has decided to say that the massive march that went on Saturday was somehow a hate crime and a hate march. This was a march for the Palestinian people and for ceasefire, right, and for peace. Where was the hate in that march? And that is how they're trying to reframe the situation, and I've got no time for that. Like, I've got no time for it. I'm seeing people posting things about that march and saying things like, "Look, everyone, look at all these people who hate Jews." Are you kidding me? Like, Jewish Voice for Peace have been doing incredible work. They're just one example, right? And again, like, no group of people is a monolith, any group. And what Israel does by trying to act like whatever they do and any attack on them in terms of people who disagree with what they're doing is anti Semitic is actually dangerous for Jewish people. If you see what's going on in Israel, there are many, many Israelis protesting against Benjamin Netanyahu. There are many that are entirely with the Palestinians. Some are moderate. Some are like just like any other place in the world. You're going to have a population of people that are going to have different views on a thing. Just like everywhere in the whole world. And this idea that to criticize Israel is anti-Semitism, I have absolutely no time for, especially when you've got like people who are brave enough, like Jewish people in Jewish Voice for Peace did a sit-in recently. You know, so many Jewish activists, so many Jewish people are out on the streets, are on the marches. Um, what an evil way to cloak the ethnic cleansing of a people by trying to cover it in an evil which is historic and which is still ongoing. Like, how it's just awful. It's really, really awful, and, like, I won't talk about this the whole time, like, I will talk about other things as well, but I want to keep talking about what's going on in Gaza because what we are seeing is war crime, what we are seeing is ethnic cleansing. Still. We're still seeing that. And what we're also seeing is we're seeing, the Israeli government saying, "Oh, we have to go and get the hostages." I'm seeing celebrities posting the hostages, and please don't get me wrong, I'm not like I desperately want the hostages to be okay, but how are the hostages gonna be okay if you're carpet bombing the place? How it's just an excuse, right, for a land grab and for revenge. The hostages, we pray, are still okay, right? They're still able to come back. Please God, let it be a situation where there can be a negotiation and there can be a ceasefire and these people can come home. How is bombing them going to help? Because all we've got is a situation where they're being bombed, and then Israel is saying, look, they were taken hostage and now they're dead. It is sorry, okay. Right. So I'm just gonna see like, am I getting the chat as it comes in? Oh, I'm not. Okay. I think the chat just like froze on here because I've actually got a lot of comments and stuff on here which I need to take a look at. Okay. Oh, okay. Right. So let's go for Lauren. Why do you have two Amber Lynn ornaments? Okay. The reason for that being that they are, I think they're called Royal Dalton or something. Let me just get. I'm not getting my ornaments by the way. I'm getting a cup of tea because I haven't eaten anything all day. One of them is from my grandma and granddad, and the other one is from my dad. And I think there's only like 2,000 or something. I might be wrong. I don't know how many there are in the world, but they're very like niche and prestigious, and they're all quite like different from each other. And I don't really like. I obviously don't have the funds to have like to buy expensive things, so that they've been like special gifts on like a special big birthday. And because there's only a certain amount in the world, it's like I don't know if anyone used to watch Jungle Run, but I see it like that. You know, you could on Jungle Run, that show, you could collect those kind of like ruby statue things. Anyway, yeah, they're both slightly different if you look at them. But that's why one's from my dad, one's from my grandma and granddad, and they're both labeled on the bottom because they're really like important, meaningful things to me. Where people in my life that I really love have like got me something which is so like connected to what I love. I like that. Okay. Have I heard about Ireland's stance on Gaza? I know that I mean obviously no place is like agreeing on everything. I know that Ireland seems to be mostly pro-Palestinian because I know that obviously Ireland has got a history of like colonialism and you know that it's an interesting one. Let me have a quick look on it. I need to look up more what Ireland's stance is, but what I've seen mostly is that Ireland seems to be very much with in the United Nations votes. I believe that Ireland voted for a ceasefire. I bel I'm really getting this wrong. Probably I should have researched more. I usually have been. It's just I've had the day from hell. But I know that there was So the United Nations has been wasting I've lost all faith because they've been wasting so much time, like, literally while you're watching Gaza get bombed and the internet get turned off, and the most horrific things on social media. It's going through the UN and they're putting together a resolution for a ceasefire, and then the US vetoes it, and then other countries abstain. And it's like, oh, can you change a word there? Can you? And it's like that means it's more hours, and that means it's more days, and everyone has to speak. And at the end of it, like, oh, okay, we're happy with that language. And then by the end of it, it didn't even matter anyway because the UN resolution for a truce has gone through, but Israel doesn't have to do anything about it. Why are people sitting there vetoing it? Like, because, oh, the language people are dying. Like, if your family were there, I don't know, the ceasefire a ceasefire is for me, the most basic thing that could be done. That's not even a political statement, right? It doesn't matter whose side you're on in this situation. A ceasefire means the bombs stop dropping. Like, ceasefire situation where people aren't getting bombed, it means the hostages aren't getting bombed, and it means the people of Gaza aren't getting bombed. And yet our politicians are still like, "Oh, I don't really know if I agree with that." A ceasefire is only the first step. That's very tame. That is the very, very least thing, which is just to say, "Please, can people stop dying? Please, can we come together and say, just please stop dropping those bombs? Please, let's have a ceasefire." But, because what needs to come after a ceasefire is there needs to be actual negotiations. There needs to be, like, there actually needs to be some sort of solution. There needs to be rights for the Palestinians. Like, all these things need to be addressed. The ceasefire is step number one, and we can't even get ourselves together to do that. What sort of a world are we living in? That we can't even say have a ceasefire. It doesn't even matter what side you're on. And then I keep seeing people say, "Oh, but what about the hostages?" And it's like, am I living in a parallel universe? The hostages are in Gaza. We're hearing that the hostages have been killed by the bombs allegedly, and I don't have cause to disbelieve that. If you see how much of the actual population of Gaza is dying from bombs, like kids, it makes sense that hostages that are there are also going to be suffering from those situations. How is bombing helping? Like, carpet bombing the area is just a way for Benjamin Netanyahu to take control of the area and take out mass revenge. And I was looking up, sorry to go on and on, but I was looking up earlier. I was looking up legality in, like, war crimes, and you're not able to target, like, schools and hospitals and things like that unless you can say that it was being used as a military base. And as you'll notice, what Israel have now started to do is now when they ring up a hospital and say, "Oh, we're gonna bomb it, get out," which is funny because, like, a while ago, they were like, "Oh, we weren't even doing that anyway," and now it's just a regular thing. They're like, "Oh, it's because Hamas is in the basement somewhere, so they can try and get around it." I've heard that they're allegedly using white phosphorus, which is another war crime. It's just so sad. Like, the ground invasion, I saw this TikTok. I'm sorry to go on a bit, I will get to your questions, but I saw this TikTok of a group of IDF soldiers, and I believe they were, like, dancing, doing a TikTok trend. They were, like, young women, and I believe they were getting ready for the ground invasion. And I thought that was one of the saddest things I've seen because these are indoctrinated extremists, right? We only tend to say indoctrinated or extremists when it comes to, like, Islamic extremism. But is that why is that not extremism, right? Why are you dancing before you get ready to go onto that land and start a ground invasion? And it's even more tragic because if that happens, those young women might die, and for what? And I think it's about the military in general, by the way. When I made this tweet, people really came for me, like, "Oh, it's all right when certain." No, I don't. I think the military is usually manipulating people. It's always people who believe in what they're doing. They're brainwashed to believe it, or they think they're doing the right thing. And then they send them out there, and it's never these people, these commanders who make the decisions. They'll never go there, right? They're never going to get carpet bombed. Like, Netanyahu's not going in, is he? Because he doesn't want to get carpet bombed by their own bombs. This leader of the IDF I keep seeing, like, no, they'll send in the young people. They'll send in the young people. They'll fire them up as they have done for a very long time. In this idea of, like, mass punishment, and they will suffer from it too. It is so nonsensical to me. I'm sorry, I totally went off, but right. Okay, let's have a look. Lee says, "Good to see you." Thank you. Your skin looks amazing. It doesn't sound weird. That sounds nice. I've always wondered what your skincare routine is. I don't really have a skincare routine. I use, like, a Dove sensitive soap to wash my face, and I use moisturizer before I put my makeup on. But it probably only looks good because on this camera, it's like a webcam camera, so it's not really sharp. And also, I've got a light, like a big white light, which is probably making it look better. Lighting is everything. Even now, like obviously I'm here talking live, but I'm still set up at a good angle. I've still got a light right in my face. I've still done my makeup. You know, it's not what I'd look like if I was just sitting there watching TV, like honestly. Um, Mike Toth, my mum was just there as a tourist this June. Was that whereabouts? Ireland, Israel, or Palestine? I know that people from my church group, I haven't been to church for a while. I've been struggling quite a lot mental health wise. I'm due to go back next week, but I know that people at my church, they go to the Holy Land, and they've because it's the Holy Land is a place of significance to Jewish people, to Christians, and to Muslims. Right? It doesn't belong to any of us. Like it doesn't belong to anyone. It's just a place of significance, or it shouldn't belong to us. And people want to be able to go there. And I think it's incredibly sad that there are people who originally were from the Holy Land that during the Nakba were displaced, and now they're not allowed back in. And this is not me trying to be like, oh, it's all right if Muslims get hurt and get people more caring about Christians, but the Islamophobia is really strong, and people use that a lot to try and make all the Palestinians out to be these dangerous, awful people that have to be bombed and exterminated. Um, what was I saying? Oh, yeah, but like also the Christian population there is huge. You know, it's just devastating, and it's not right on any sort of level that a group of people thinks that they're entitled to the land because of a biblical claim or a claim in their religion, and that means that other people can't go there and other people have to be ethnically cleansed. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any logical sense. What was I saying? Hi Sharon. Um, do I have it set to live chat or top chat? I've got it set to top chat. You sold it for me. Thank you, Hayden. Now I'm seeing it. Now I'm seeing it. Okay. Story struck. How warped does your mind have to be to view a march as a hate crime? The thing is, I don't even think it's warped. I think it's intentional, because I've heard whisperings that the Met are going to go really hard at the next protest. They're worried there's going to be disruption, like sit-ins, like we've seen in the US. And honestly, I trying to frame these marches as anything other than like, thank goodness for them, and I wish I was well enough to go to them, because I know there are people in Palestine who are seeing it. They are saying they've seen these marches, and at least they know that people do care. And that's why even with my social media, I'm pretty useless, because I can't really go on the protests. But I do have a platform which isn't huge, but it's okay. So I want to keep talking about it, and I'm going to keep talking about it as much as I can. Let's have a look. Hayden, I was obsessed with Jungle Run as a kid. So was I, but I was always scared of like the snakes. They'd always cut to like a weird scene of like some like plastic blocks painted to look like an old temple, and then a snake would show up. I'm very scared of snakes. The UN has no power. It's a meaningless organization that sucks money from various first world nations. I mean, I truly I get that now. Like I'm not the most politically educated. I do try and learn, so I do try and educate myself, and but I'm still so naive on this. Like, I listen to other activists, I listen to lots of different spaces. And truly the I really used to think I never thought about it that much, but I thought, okay, there are things in place in the world to make sure things like this don't happen. And then you realize that actually the United Nations just wasted a load of time, and that countries abstained. I believe we abstained. You've got countries vetoing the resolution while people are dying. And if it was your family there, like, you can't waste a second. Every second, every minute, another person could be being killed. And this isn't like being killed in a way that is terrifying, because the internet was cut off for a while. Like, there, I believe white phosphorus is being used, which is it's not just it's a really awful way to die, right? And the fear of that is horrific. And we couldn't even get it together for a ceasefire. And Keir Starmer, who is on my list, Keir Starmer, I loathe that man. I really, really loathe that man, because even now, he went mask off and he sent someone on to, I don't know if it was ITV News, They don't want to back a ceasefire um, because they want to get into power. Literally, the guy said this, something like, "Oh, but they might be a government in waiting." And it's like, I'm glad you're being a government in waiting is more important than the fact that there are little children I'm seeing on Twitter who like are horribly injured. And I won't unsee a lot of the stuff I've seen, and I think a lot of us are quite disturbed by what we've seen. Um, but also, I feel like I don't have a right to complain and like look away, because don't we have a responsibility to know what's happening and to tell people what's happening? And to think that not only are we seeing it, but this is the reality that these children are experiencing. The trauma, the collective trauma that they're going through is absolutely horrific. And I will say it again, they keep showing me pictures of these children that are hostages. And I can't understand what's wrong with people, that they can't understand that if you've got children that are hostages, and they should not be hostages, taking hostages is not, like, it's wrong. We all know that. We should also note that Israel has hostages, because the idea is, I think there was originally there were going to be ideas of some sort of swap. There's a lot of Palestinian kids that Israel has got hostage, but of course they don't call that hostage if a state does it, which doesn't make sense to me. But to get those children back, and I'm just thinking, as I'm not a mother, if I was a mother and I was thinking about a loved one, please don't bomb the area where they are. Please don't indiscriminately bomb the area. Like, please don't do that. Please, if there's any hope of any sort of negotiation, at least have a ceasefire. At least let them come back. And I believe that some of the relatives are actually really angry at Netanyahu now, because he is using those hostages. He is using the lives of those. He doesn't care about his own people. He doesn't care. He's having people arrested in Israel who are protesting against him and protesting because they want the hostages to be safe. He's just like, he's a fascist pig. That's all Netanyahu is. He's a far right fascist pig. And I just can't believe that we're with him on this in this country. Us in the US are with him on this. Like, it's absolutely shocking to me. And our opposition's like, yeah, no, I don't think we should call for a ceasefire. I think that's a bit too far. Do you think it would be too far if it was your family getting bombed? Like, if it was your house, do you think then it would be too far for a ceasefire? What side do you even have to be on to not want a ceasefire? Like, clearly just the side of wanting people to die, I guess. I don't know. Anyway. Okay. Cyril Davies agrees ceasefire is a basic step and humanitarian aid to Gaza to help the people after these atrocities. Yeah, absolutely. And it is just the first step, because sometimes, like, even the idea of the ceasefire and getting the humanitarian aid in, and then it's like, what? Then the bombing starts again. So then it's just a cycle of, okay, guys, like, regroup, mourn your dead, and then we're going to bomb you some more. The answer to the conflict, like any situation, like, is not, the answer is not carpet bombing somewhere. That is revenge. And I was watching this interview with this video by Dr. Gabor Mate, or Mate, I'm not sure if I get that right, but he interviewed Prince Harry. So you might know that if you come onto my channel for that. He's a specialist in trauma. And he's a Holocaust survivor. He was a baby and he was saved at that time. And he speaks a lot for the rights of the Palestinians. And the way he just expressed this so well, that, like, we can all react in rage and emotion, and that's understandable. But we can't run states like this, right? You're not gonna. The feeling of anger and hatred, like if your loved one is taken hostages, is understandable. People are feeling huge pain. But you don't then say, right, we're gonna carpet bomb. We're gonna carpet bomb Gaza. And that's okay because of our pain. Because if we play that game, then I believe a lot of people who are now in Hamas ended up in Hamas. Is that still on? Yeah. Ended up in Hamas. I believe a lot of them, because over the years their parents were killed. Some of them were orphaned by Israeli bombs. And by that, if we can't operate the world like that, because innocents will keep getting killed. It's a cycle of revenge and hatred, and we're never going to get anywhere, because now we're traumatizing a whole other generation of Gazans. And I don't know how they think it's going to work. Like, oh, it will be a two-state solution. You're bombing them right now, civilians and children. Like, the people that survive that, how, like, would you want peace at that time? And I'm not saying, like, people wouldn't, like, people will react all differently in that group. But if what you're worried about is extremists, right, and radicalization and these violent reprisals, I would probably recommend not carpet bombing children and orphaning children that are gonna grow up in with the most trauma imaginable, the most anger, feeling unheard, feeling like the world has abandoned them. People like that in any situation we know are ripe targets for indoctrination. And I think the same about the way Israel runs and how it brainwashes its IDF. I truly believe that in a lot of cases, they teach these young Israelis who are good people, right, decent people, and the horrors of obviously the Holocaust, like the anti-Semitism all across Europe, which is still ongoing. And they teach them like, right, these people want you dead. It's us or them. So they're going to think. I think I've seen an advert. I don't know why. I don't know if you're still with me, but and so they're thinking, oh, us or them. Well, I want my family safe. Therefore, I've got to go and exterminate these people. And it's just a cycle of hell. It is just a cycle of pure hell. I don't know. Book creator because they don't want to piss off Israel. See, I don't know about that. Like the thing that I find interesting about this is, you know, in some people's minds, they believe that, and I think some of it's tied to anti-Semitism, where it's like they think that Israel is like controlling the world situation. I don't see it like that. I don't see it like that. I see it as, I personally see it as just colonialism. It's European settler colonialism. I think it benefits the US. I think that the US never does anything. Their support for Israel, let's just say, is not rooted in any sort of humanitarian care. Like their support will have been thought out for whatever reason, right? I don't know. I don't trust a lot of the people in power at all. And I don't think it's so much about being scared to annoy Israel. I think it's like we have a lot of collective guilt here in Europe about the Holocaust. And this is what's so awful because it's like, I might be expressing this wrong. It's our fault, like not the ones who are living now, but in Europe, the anti-Semitism was so extreme and still is extreme, right? And it's still ongoing. But it was so bad over generations and generations that when it came to the Nazis, right, and when it came to the Holocaust, and when they wanted their scapegoat, and there they had it. Because anti-Semitism had made Jewish people the other, right? They were meant to be this infiltrating evil force, and no matter how you felt about people, did you hate the capitalists? They're the capitalists. Did you hate the communists? They're the communists. They're these puppet people, like they're pulling the strings. They're evil. They try all these strange things, like it's almost like it ties into like anti-blackness as well because they racialize them in terms of like, if you see the cartoons, it's like, oh, they're coming to like mix in with the Aryan race, and like that's our guilt in Europe. That was allowed to happen, and people think because of the Second World War, like in the UK, for example, in Britain, oh, we were on the right side of it, so we weren't anti-Semitic. No, we had so much anti-Semitism here. Like we didn't go into that war because we were thinking, what about the Jewish people? That's not what happened. It was not that. We were against the Nazis, which was the right side to be on, but there was heavy anti-Semitism here. And it's like, and then like we just decided after this evil situation happened, it was like, okay, well, why not have Palestine, which Britain had already owned before? There's no one living there. It's like uncivilized, and that's what a lot of Israelis are taught. They're taught that it was a land where no one was there, and that's what they say every single time. Like that's our playbook, right? That's what we say about things like India. Oh, they were uncivilized people, and if there were people there, they need us to civilize them, and they're a danger to all of us anyway. We need to get rid of them. We need to civilize the world. And I don't even know where I'm going with this. I actually, yes, I do. So you've got like our guilt over that anti-Semitism, which is now being used to persecute another group, the Palestinians, and in terms of Islamophobia, it's being used. The ethnic cleansing of a group, like the genocide of Jewish people, is now being used by some to massacre another people, and also it is creating more anti-Semitism. And I'm not saying that's an excuse for anti-Semitism, but if you've got Israel doing this stuff and saying that Netanyahu saying things like, "Oh, we're doing this because we're the Jewish state, and if people criticize us, it's because we're Jewish," he is trying to connect in his mind, like he's trying to connect the idea of Israel and Jewishness. He's trying to make those things like we represent Jewish people, and that's why people are arrested in Israel, right? That's why when Jewish people around the world protest, it's like, oh, be quiet, or they're not really Jewish, or they're traitors. He's trying to make it that. And now we've got that. Like, for example, I saw this video today. It was so distressing. I haven't had a lot of time to see it, and I think it was in Russia, and I saw, I believe a man came off the plane from Tel Aviv, so he'd come back from Israel, and there was a mob there waiting for him, and they wanted his passport, and this is if the captions were correct, and it was really scary, right? They were looking for a Jew. They were looking for a Jewish person. That is terrifying. That's terrifying behavior. And I'm not saying that's any sort of excuse for anti-Semitism. Like, that no, like any normal person should understand that Israel does not represent all Jewish people, and anyone who wants to hurt Jewish people because they're Jewish or anything, like literally, I don't stay away from me. We're not on the same side, right? If you're against oppression, if you want a free Palestine because you're against colonialism, you're against oppression, that also means you have to be against anti-Semitism, right? All these forms of racism are connected. Sorry that I'm sounding really stuffy. I don't want to blow my nose here. But like this anti-Semitism as well, it's just an endless awful cycle. That video was horrifying. That video was really scary. To think that they were looking for a Jewish person and like look at his passport. It's really, really frightening. And again, like the Islamophobia as well. You've got people chanting death to Arabs at like a student place. All of this pain and all of this, and I do feel like we're partly responsible, like not only in terms of our history with the region, but also in terms of like we have emboldened Netanyahu, who is a far right leader of Israel. We have emboldened this. And I truly believe that if at the start he hadn't had all that support from us in the US and from France, I don't think he would have done so much as he did. Truly. And it's just, I'm sorry, I'm really going off at this point, but we are seeing Islamophobia, we're seeing anti-Semitism, we're seeing the massacre of Palestinians, we're seeing war crimes, right? We're seeing Israelis like being arrested in their own country, right? It's just a sprawling evil war, and wars are always like this. And I don't know, in some ways I find it hard to even say a war because this is not what the Israeli government doing is not a war. This is a war crime. This is a massacre of people. This is a mass slaughter of people. Sorry about hearing my stomach there. I haven't eaten. But the fact that this is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and this could develop into something like, and for what? I keep thinking about that TikTok of the IDF women, the young women, and how they've been radicalized, right? And they were excited. They were dancing with glow sticks, getting ready for a ground invasion. And I think the propaganda is so huge that they've probably been told, you've got to defend because they will kill you otherwise. They'll grow up and they'll be terrorists. If you look at interviews in Israel well before any of this happened, you've got some very radicalized people saying some very disturbing things about Palestinians and about Arabs. We don't call that extremism, but and again, it's like, for what? War is hell. Like, war is hell. Those people say they go in, they become part of war crimes, and they are traumatized, and they cause trauma, and then they die or they get hurt, and then their families feel that pain, and it just goes on and on and on and on. We are in 2023, and we just don't learn, and they're selling poppies now. It's, lest we forget. And people try to say, oh, that's just a remembrance thing. It's not. It's pro-military. I don't wear a poppy if you don't support a ceasefire, basically, right? What we're supposed to learn from these wars is nobody wins. The people in power will always be fine, right? It is the ordinary people, the ordinary soldiers, the civilians. That's what war is. It's just suffering. Sorry to go off on one like that, but anyway, I should really be answering stuff. Adeline, I'm a descendant from Holocaust survivors. I'm not Jewish. They were resistance people, and it's very frustrating Israel taking Holocaust narrative and using it to justify war crimes. Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine. Like, it's scary when you think some of the tactics they're using Netanyahu is using to demonize the Palestinians. Like the children of darkness versus the children of light, and they have to be exterminated, and he's getting biblical, and he's that sort of propaganda again is what was used against Jewish people by the Nazis, Obviously, I don't need to tell you that, that's your being descended from it, but and it is incredibly cruel and upsetting, that the mass slaughter in the Holocaust, like, nobody's learned, like, nobody seems to have learned. It's like, unfortunately, as humans, I do believe there's more good than bad. We are susceptible to propaganda. We're very emotional creatures, and I think most people are good, but I think that propaganda and emotions and the media have a huge deal to do with it. And I think they really make us think that it's them or us all the time, and that's a rational, reasonable thing to think. And some people are inherently dangerous, and people just don't want to acknowledge that things are more complicated. And when people are already being demonized, like Jewish people had been, like, before the Holocaust, it was so easy to make them the other, to blame for things, to make people think, "Oh, okay, we just want them in the ghettos, like, we just want them out of here, like, yeah, we just don't want them with us, they shouldn't be with us, they're infected, and they should just wear badges." Um, and then they went off to the camps, and it was like, "Oh, well, okay, well, at least they're in the camps," and then it was like, "Oh, they're being killed," and people would either deny that was even happening, or they would be like, "Well, it's a shame, but it has to be done." And we don't teach that because it's uncomfortable, but that is not a uniquely German problem, like, in sorry, this is oh, that fly's been annoying me all day. We are always, as human beings, going to be that thing wants to talk on the podcast, on the video. But we're always gonna be conditioned to dehumanize certain groups, always, and our media is a huge part to do with that. And so you dehumanize them so that you can treat people as less than human, so you can make reasonable, otherwise loving, good people think, "Well, that's a necessary thing that has to happen." So that's why you've got the pictures of the young hostages who've been taken, um, and then it's, these people are so evil, like, we just have to destroy them. And people are so emotional on it, they're not rational, that their emotion, which is a healthy, it comes, I believe it comes from a place of goodness, it comes from a place of seeing an innocent child and relating to that child and thinking that could be my child, although I think racism is part of it as well, because a lot of people see Israelis as more white and less Muslim. But that feeling gets channeled into something awful. And it's like when you see nationalism and people think I'm fighting for my country and for my people, and then it's like, but what about the other people? What do they think they're fighting for? What about that? I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna sneeze and I'm worried. I sneeze very, very loudly, so I'm gonna try and not, but I am gonna sneeze. I'm sorry. I do really loud, awful sneezes, so you might wanna, like, I'm holding it off for now. Okay. Um, okay. Right. Sorry I'm going so slowly. Why are you on a timeout? Joseph, you're on a timeout. No, you haven't offended me. I haven't put you on a timeout. Why are you on a timeout? Can anyone advise me, please, here? So, Joseph is Divas, Dinosaurs, and Demons. I'm seeing you now. It might be if maybe if you posted in quick succession. There are settings on because I don't have a moderator, so it might just be that you posted twice in a row. I can see what you're saying now. I've honestly not done anything like that. I wouldn't know how. You've definitely not offended me. I mean, I can see your comment now. So post again, and I will find it when I go through. I'm really sorry about that. Dan, a ceasefire doesn't help the money men make money from the war machine. I mean, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, people make a lot of money out of war. Like, what peace benefits all the people, right? Peace benefits all people across the world. Solidarity benefits all people across the world. But then if there was no war, then, the military, like, they would, like, Elbit Systems, BAE, like, all these companies, like, it's big business. Like, the deaths of people we see as, like, foreign others, right? That's huge business for us. It's awful. A lot of people I've spoken to, Adeline, a lot of people I've spoken to are just not engaging with the issue. Like, they aren't pro-Israel, but they just disengage from the whole thing. Yeah. And I feel like I don't necessarily blame people because, I mean, I'm coming at this from a situation where I am educated-ish on it. I'm not an expert, but educated-ish and have been for a few years. And also because of my background with being half Indian and colonialism and all those kind of ideas and thinking about those things. And I think a lot of people just are disengaging. I think a lot of people think it's more rational and reasonable to sit in the middle on both sides of it and just say, like, this side's bad, or what can we do? What can we do? But that is not brave and that's not honest. It is in terms of the emotions of all people across this world, whether they are Israeli or Palestinians, and their lives are equally as valuable. That is a good both sides situation, right? That's good. But what we're actually looking at is like a huge, a horrible evil being committed by a state in retribution, which is killing children, and so many war crimes are happening. Wait, I'm getting a message. Sorry, that was the WhatsApp. um, but yeah, no, they just disengage. People just disengage, and I think people disengage as well because it's distressing. And I understand that, but also it's like the Palestinians are living it, and it is complicated. But if these people have to live it, then I feel like we owe it to them, especially in Britain. When you think about our history in the region, we owe it to ourselves and to them. We owe it to honestly, we owe it to Jewish people, we owe it to Muslim people, we owe it to Israelis, to Palestinians, to look at. We don't even teach about the Holocaust properly in terms of how did it get there, and if we did teach that, then we wouldn't have tabloid media, right? Because that's what the tabloids do. They don't want to teach us that because it threatens different hierarchies, and once you know how that works, not just the end point, but how that started, things would be different. They don't want to teach us that, but we have a responsibility here. We are built on empire and colonialism. I'm not saying that means that we're all like these guilty, horrible people. We weren't alive then, but we can experience the discomfort of learning about that. It's not our guilt. Like, in terms of, it's not, we didn't personally do it, but we have to be educated about these things rather than sitting there complacently and complaining about boycotts. And I've seen people say, "Oh, I don't really want to boycott McDonald's. It's inconvenient for me." And it's like, it's not a big ask to boycott McDonald's, you know? Anyway, okay, April says, our Prime Minister abstained from the ceasefire vote because the resolution didn't mention Israel's right to defend itself. And again, this is something I keep hearing, that Israel has the right to defend itself. And like, I don't disagree that any place and any people have a right to defend themselves. You never do hear, though, that the Palestinians have the right to defend themselves. They have to be entirely peaceful all the time. And they have to be like victims in terms of, oh, we pity them and we'll send them humanitarian aid, but they're not allowed to fight in whatever way that is. I'm not saying it's okay to take out your fight on civilians, especially not children. It's just the framing of it. Does Israel have a right to defend itself? Well, it depends what it means by that. If it means, does it have a right to defend itself by carpet bombing Gaza? No. By bombing hospitals. Like, they say, oh, there's Hamas people in the hospitals. Well, the doctors in the hospitals are saying that's not the case. But even so, and this human shields argument, I can't quite understand, and I think it's down to the dehumanization of Muslims that we have here. If your family was in a house and a serial killer went into that house, a dangerous serial killer, and the government said, look, we know that your family are in the house, but we have to get rid of this serial killer, we're going to bomb the house, would you then sit there and be like, well, that's all right then? If there were children standing in front of a bad person, right, and children were lined up in front of them. Oh, I'm going to get that fly. Okay, I'm not. There were children lined up in front of that person. Would you shoot? Would you shoot? If there was an evil person in front of you and there were little children in front of that person and you had the opportunity to shoot, would you shoot? No. And I think if it was white children, we all know that in this country we wouldn't do that. We'd know it was wrong. If terrorists had broken into the base of a big London hospital, but there were thousands of patients in that hospital, it would be absurd, and it would never happen that we'd say, we'll bomb the place, we have to, because they're using the basement. We would say there's another way because there are civilians there. So that argument just doesn't work for me. It's like brown lives are just, well, that's the price of war. But that it's awful. Book creator, I'm beyond disgusted with my country. I will not be voting for Joe Biden again. I mean, I've never been a big fan of Biden. I saw some dodgy stuff earlier actually about his racism. I might be wrong. Forgive me if I'm getting this wrong, but I saw that he was supporting segregation or something when he was younger. I don't know. I think for a lot of people, the illusion of You really do think, good team, bad team, Republicans, Democrats, Labour, Conservatives. And then it comes to something like this, and the real situation is a lot of people in power want to keep their power. So they have no interest in frustrating other people in power, because if they actually challenged anything, they wouldn't become big names. They wouldn't be wealthy. They wouldn't get in the history books, which is what they want. Like we don't live in a world where standing up and telling the truth gets you good things, unfortunately. It just doesn't. And we're led by people who will now use causes that they don't care about, um, to make themselves bigger and to get what they want and to reframe things. And they don't care if people have to die. They don't care about the real cost to people. They just care about their own reputations, and they want to get up the ladder because that's meaningful to them. I think that's why you rarely get good people in positions of power in politics. And whenever you do, they're quite easily taken down because they're thinking differently to other people. They're not playing it as a game. They're playing it based on principles, which sadly in the system makes them easy targets. With Jeremy Corbyn, I often think I wish he'd fought back more, but that's not the person he is. He's not. If he'd done what Starmer had done and just stifled all dissent and got rid of them and smeared them, he'd be laughing. He'd be in power. But he doesn't think like that, and our systems still aren't set up for justice and for peace and for talking. They're not. Um, um, okay, Emily Rose, how did you find faith? I'm currently questioning my atheism. I don't technically believe in God, but I do kind of find comfort in thinking my dad had gone somewhere better than this world and has found peace. I found faith very slowly. When I was younger, I was very, very depressed and ill at various times when I was a child, and I used to write letters to God. I also used to love listening to Bible stories when I was when I was 5 years old, when I was really little at school, in infant school. And I loved the morals of them. They taught me, I wasn't religious, but I loved the morals, like the goodness and like the bravery and like moral courage, right? And Jesus has always been. I went to a Christian school, like Church of England, not Christian. Um, I've always, even when I was an atheist, I always thought, well, that sounds like a nice guy, and I believe what he believes in mostly. I just don't believe in God. And then as I got older, I just started to believe. I can't explain how. When I pray, this is gonna sound so crazy. I feel the Holy Spirit. I can't explain this to you. And I honestly, if I had said this to myself, I'd be like, yeah, of course you can. You're getting cramp because you're sitting down too long. No, that's not what it is. There is a feeling, and that's it. I'm still not sure on organized religion, honestly, and I mean, for example, I believe it's the Archbishop of Canterbury has been pretty useless on this situation with Gaza, even though Christians are dying. I'm still not 100% on these structures, because when I think about Jesus was kind of he wasn't very into the structures. Like, the structures came after him. He had a message, he had beliefs, he had principles. He was quite radical in his day. And yet after that came the kind of, infrastructure and the hierarchy. And I don't really think Jesus was about that, personally. I don't know. D Patel, how do political leaders turn off their humanity? I think they're just so ambitious that they see it all as a game. I think they really do. I think they don't. If they thought about lives and individual people, they'd crumble. So they smear them and they say, "Oh, these people are cranks, or these people deserve it," or, you know, in order to cope with their lives, they can't look too closely at things. You don't often see them self-reflecting. Occasionally, you'll get a rare moment of humanity. I'm just gonna put my tea down over here. Oh, by the way, my flowers. I think someone asked about my flowers. Um, they're very nice. They are new. I think they're tulips. Because I had a really bad day today, Grandma got me them. That's how I got. I don't usually have flowers in here, but it's quite nice to have them here. And I'm not allergic to them yet. Sometimes I get allergic. What was I saying? Let me look. Oh yeah, how do they turn off their humanity? I honestly just think it's how they survive, and occasionally I could understand if people, we all do insane things in the heat at the moment, right? We all do. We can all be that fly. We can all be really ambitious. We can all be perfectionistic. We can all We've all got that in us. But when people can't, like, accept that they might be wrong about something, like, that's what I hate about Keir Starmer. He is just a stubborn brick. You know, it's like, oh, he scoffs at the idea he could have ever got anything wrong or done anything wrong because he's a reasonable man. And come on now. And, you know, if you hold him to account to something, he's never actually apologetic. It's just, I'm saying the words I have to say to get away with this. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think we live in a world where some of the nastiest people, the people that have the least humanity, work their way up and actually end up in charge. The majority of people I truly think are good. I truly, truly do. And I think the way our media works, that indoctrination starts young. It does. Like, it teaches us to dehumanize certain groups. I mean, for my generation, the dehumanization of obviously like anti-black racism has always been big here, but also the idea of like the Islamophobia since 9/11. I remember 9/11 happening. It's just been so consistent all the time. And you know, that fly, please leave me alone. um, but I think most people are good, but they don't teach our histories. They teach them to scapegoat another. They make people think that it's us or them all the time, rather than realizing that your humanity is the same humanity as anyone else in the rest of the world. You should be able to, as a human being, see your humanity in the Israeli hostages and the Palestinian children as a human being, regardless of politics. The problem is when people say, like, they can't do that anymore. I don't know. There we go, Joseph, I can see your stuff. Keir Starmer is the epitome of the old Groucho Marx line, "These are my principles, you don't like them, I have others." He truly is. He truly is, and I have more respect for people I can't stand and have awful opinions, because at least they have their opinions. I'll be honest with you, somebody like Lawrence Fox. Lawrence Fox is, I don't know what has happened to him. His trajectory is just wow. And to see that happen in real time is really quite bizarre. But I always feel, again, I feel more comfortable. Like, people will say really shocking, horrible things, and you can at the time think that's really awful. I'm not saying it doesn't have harm and it doesn't hurt people. It does. But I still would rather that than somebody who literally has no principles and will say and do anything to get to what they want to be. You know, Keir Starmer is truly that. He's broken every pledge. Well, most of them. I'm kind of being vague there. I will make a video at some point about that. Because he knows that he's gonna get in no matter what he does. You know, he's just gotta be a reasonable man in a suit because that's what you gotta do to get in. Maybe he once had principles, but at some point he decided he didn't care about those anymore because he got a taste of power, I guess. I don't know. And we're all gonna face things like that in our lives, where we have opportunities and we have an opportunity to succeed at something, but it's going to ask us to compromise our values. And, you know, I'm not saying we're always going to choose the right things, but I would hope that most of us, before we got to an extreme point, would actually think, no, I do have basic principles and I won't compromise on these. I might have a bit of wiggle room, but I'm not compromising on those things. Yeah. He's like, it's just a soulless suit to me. He really is. And I find that so difficult because there's no use appealing to his humanity. He's just authoritarian. He's just bureaucracy. He's just there to say whatever he thinks he needs to say to get to power. And it doesn't matter to him who he hurts. Or even he doesn't even see it like that. He doesn't see himself as hurting people. He sees what he does as like not hurting anyone when really it's that neutrality that hurts people the most, I think. I'm so sorry if I'm like sniffing. I get so worried about sniffing on camera. Okay. I feel like I want to blow my nose, but can I mute you for that? I'm gonna mute it. I'm gonna go slightly off camera so I can blow my nose because I don't want to blow my nose in front of you. I hope this mutes. If it doesn't, please forgive me for hearing me blow my nose. I'm back. I really hope you didn't hear me blow my nose. If so, I'm sorry, but I did give warning. It's weird, isn't it? The things you don't do on YouTube, like just in normal life, you'd be sitting here blowing your nose, but not on YouTube. Okay. Joseph, the great irony is that a lot of the conservatives who now accuse the left of anti-Semitism spread insane racist myths about Jewish people all being communists. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's just it's bizarre. And people will use any cause, right? They will use any cause like anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, anti-black racism, and they will use it for their own cynical ends. They really are. They will use anything. They will use anything possible to get what they want. And most people wouldn't do that. Most people would look at an issue of that gravity and think, you know what, it's not about my personal progression in life. These are important big issues. But they don't care. Haran says preach. Thank you. I'm seeing this on a lag. Hopefully you still feel like that after what I've said. Okay. Oh, Adeline, you're a descendant from Holocaust survivors, not Jewish. They were resistance people. Um, oh yes, of course. Sorry, that was my mistake. Yeah, and you know, in the Holocaust, of course, like you know, gay people were targeted. The Roma community, people who are disabled were targeted. Like people who were considered asocial. There was like forced. What do you call it? When they take away your ability to have children, there was sterilization. There was forced sterilization. Um, I'm probably missing out a load of groups here, but you know, obviously there are a lot of groups, resistance fighters, socialists. Like, it really was a scary, scary time. Let me just redo my live chat. I'm so sorry. Like, I feel like I'm getting really nasally, like Keir Starmer. You know, his voice is incredibly nasally, and it always sounds like he should blow his nose. But it's that or blow my nose. I don't want to blow my nose. I'm nervous about it. Okay. Harin says, "Is the stream lagging for anyone else but me?" It might be. I know it lagged slightly before for people. It should be all right when when I put it up later. I won't edit it unless the nose blow is loud, and then I will. Zara, Israeli government is run by Zionists, not Jews, and that's the thing as well. Like, Zionism as a political position and a belief is not the same as Jewishness. It's just not, because you've got Jewish people who are very anti-Zionist. You know, a political position, it just doesn't make sense. Like, it's a very cynical move, again, to mean that when people are against that political position and that ideology, that people can say, oh, well, you're against a religion. No. No, like, no. And the idea that, you know, to be against Zionism, like, Keir Starmer has said that he supports Zionism without qualification. And it's, what do you mean without qualification? Like, I could even understand it with qualification. I could understand someone saying, like, to the extent of, you know, technically, you know, the idea of Jewish people having a homeland, provided it's not on top of another people that are being ethnically cleansed, sure, like in that situation. But to say without qualification, what does that mean? What does that even mean? I don't know. Okay. Hayden, is there anything right now, whether it's a show, book, or song, that's bringing you some joy and comfort? Yes. So actually, I have it here. I love BBC Ghosts so much. Like, it's my absolute favorite, and I'm writing a story at the moment about my favorite ghost, the captain. And this came through. It's the Ghost, the Button House Archives, and I love this book so much. I'm so sad that the show's finished. Well, there's going to be a Christmas special, but I've loved it. I love the Horrible Histories writers and like the Horrible Histories. I kind of grew up on it. And I used to really love like Matt Bainton and Ben Wilbond. I love them. I love them so much. And as I got older, I really began to appreciate them more. And now, you know, they're writing ghosts, and it's really fun. It's a nice, fun comedy, which is not dark, and it's just silly, and it makes you feel good about life and also about death. That's what I think anyway. And the captain is my favorite, but also Kitty. Kitty and the captain are my favorite ghosts. Not that anyone asked, but if you were asking. Those are my favorite ghosts for sure. And I'm writing something about the captain and also about Kitty, and I don't know if I'll put it up, but maybe I will. Also, I found a load of pre-Raphaelite books recently. I'm actually getting back into collage. I'm doing some art. So I went to like a secondhand shop the other day and got some really, really cheap. I got this one, which is really cool. Pre-Raphaelite women. You know, I was saying the other day about like lips and stuff and like what people look like. This is the sort of thing that I kind of have always loved. I think she looks a bit like Lucy Griffiths, who played Maid Marian in BBC Robin Hood. But pre-Raphaelites, oh, absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, sorry, I'm getting all nasally again. I don't want to blow my nose. There's a line from Lost in Space: millions of lives for a few pages in history books sums up most of our leaders. Yeah, honestly, Joseph, I think so too. It's just devastating, genuinely devastating, that there are people with actual beliefs out there, truly. Even people whose beliefs I don't believe in, but they have their principles, they have their worldviews. And yet our leaders are just so selfish, and they will say anything and they don't care. We have a society that rewards people like that still. We villainize people who are human. We villainize those people, and I don't know. Do I still crochet? Says Lauren. I do still crochet. I would get the blanket I crocheted out, but things are gonna fall down. But I can still show you. It's got a load of stuff on it. So if you hear crashing, it's because it's under some things. Okay, you're gonna hear like crashing. Oh, it wasn't too bad. Okay, so this, I don't know if you can see this. I crocheted this blanket thing, and it was a stress thing for me. It was like it was like a stim kind of thing. Like when I was stressed, I did this a while ago, and I would just sit and do it, and it really helped with my anxiety. And yeah, so I crocheted this big blanket in purple. But that was a while ago. I think I still need to like finish it in terms of like, oh, it's already tied off at the end, so I think I just need to get to the end of that, and then it will be finished off. But I do still crochet, but not particularly much. Book creator. To answer your previous question, he was against school busing that would integrate schools by taking black kids to predominantly white schools. He is absolutely racist. Oh my god, that is. I'm not convinced he knows what's going on even now. I'm not, truly, I just don't think that man knows what's happening at all. Like, you see him on the TV, and he's literally just like, he's standing there like, I don't know. I think actually that sounds a bit like Trump, but this is the same. Like, and this is going to sound. I don't mean this in an ageist manner. People of all ages have so much to give, but why let the young people come up through politics? We have a political system where you have to like do your time through politics and prove yourself to the system, and then we wonder why at the end of the system we only get people who have nothing to say or contribute. It's these older people who don't have a lot of stake in stuff and have a lot to lose, and it frustrates me. There should be more. I want to see more young people in politics, like vibrant people who actually care about things. Like, let people in politics be angry and let them get rid of this, like, you've got to be reasonable and wear a suit. If you care, like, I want those people in politics. But okay, I'm glad nobody heard me blow my nose. That's a relief. What on earth is that? Have I just accidentally clicked like a warning on something? I don't know. Don't know what I'm doing. Okay. Sorry, I'm just reading it. Have you ever had to deal with people casually saying racist stuff about Indians in front of you because they think you're white? I've heard that a lot of mixed race people experience that. Yeah. I hear a lot of people arguing in favor of colonialism and imperialism, and the whole white man's burden thing, which is, well, they just weren't civilized and they had to become civilized, and in fact they needed us to civilize them. And it's good for them, that we did that, and it's like, you should be grateful and we should be grateful, and you wouldn't be here otherwise. And it's like, that's frustrating. But yeah, no, I do hear a lot of racism stuff because people have no idea I'm mixed, and that's really horrible, because it's not anywhere near as bad as people who are visibly people of color who experience that sort of racism, but to experience the before and after is interesting. Like, people who've perceived you as white for a long time, so how they are with you, and then them to find out, and then to get them to change their attitude slightly. And you can't pinpoint it, but you're thinking, wow, that's that's altered. You see both things. Like, I remember going to the hospital with my Indian family before. The staff did not treat them with the warmth and sort of friendliness and, like, benefit of the doubtness that they do when my white family have been in the hospital. It was almost like a coldness. It wasn't rude. It was nothing you could actually say was rude, but the vibe was different. And it was just something that I noticed in a huge way, really. Having had, like, it was almost an identical situation, and it was like, wow, like, that's some coldness. That is some different experience that's going on there. And I'm also very aware that, I have no idea what it will be like to be more visibly a person of color, like a lot of my cousins and stuff. Like, I will never know what that's like. I've only got, like, a tiny fraction of stuff. I'll never know that. Um, uh, Oceanography, all ages should be represented in politics. Yeah, I definitely agree. Richard Wigglesworth. I enjoyed the camel fat Coca-Cola cover and the thing you did with your bro. I think you were developing your own signature sounds. I prefer DIY aesthetic to very polished studio sounds. Thank you for saying well, I'm experimenting. I'm not the best at mixing, but I am learning what I like in terms of mixes, and I'm starting to mix things in terms of how I enjoy them. So I would like things where there's a load of mad harmonies everywhere that come in from weird angles and things like panning around, which isn't how you're meant to do it. But if I like it, that's now how I do it. And I had some covers I wanted to put up for Halloween, but this whole Gaza thing, like I'm starting to feel like I don't want to put anything like that up yet. Like I want to just I don't know. Someone made a post recently about making space on social media and keeping that space and not letting people forget and not let people go back. And that doesn't mean like don't go on with your life, but I really want it to be at the forefront of people's minds because I think we can make a difference. I think we can. Like even if it's just not letting people forget that this is a huge crisis and that this is happening and that although it's being done in our names, we don't agree with it. I don't know. And also Halloween. I was watching Strictly Halloween on Saturday, which I usually love, and I was just thinking all I could think about was how bad taste it was. Like, and it's not like it's not that it shouldn't have been on or anything. It's just like seeing people dressed up for Halloween like with fake blood on them and stuff, and yet seeing Gaza real blood, like that real stuff. It just gave me like a chill, like a sort of I don't know. It's like fireworks were going off this weekend while Gaza was being bombed, and this was while the internet was off for the people of Gaza. And I was getting really stressed and upset listening to the fireworks. In my mind, I'm thinking like I couldn't detangle the things in my head. Um, I don't know. I just I don't think we should. I don't want us to get to a point where we're like, oh, that's what's happening in Gaza and that's okay. I always want us to be feeling like we could be any of those people. Like we could be any of those people and what they're experiencing is what any of us could experience, you know? Um, I don't know. I'm struggling with putting it's like I don't want to put stuff on social media which is like other stuff when I've got mutuals and stuff who are posting from Palestine about how they're being bombed. It's just made everything feel so I mean, like the experience I had today was horrible. I really one of the just horrible situations. When you really, really are really, really worried about somebody and you just wish you could help them, but you know that it's not time. And there's nothing you can do, that helplessness. But even that, really, that pain I was feeling today, which was gutting, and when you love someone, you want them to be safe, you want them to be loved, you want them to be cared for, and it's heartbreaking. It feels like physical pain when somebody hurts them. And then, but then even me thinking about how I felt about that today, how on earth does that feel for the people in Gaza? How on earth does that feel for the people whose families are in Gaza who can't get through to them? Like, I always want to keep that connection, and I don't think that's a bad thing to be connected in that way. And I also hope that's not a self-centered thing to be like, oh, I can understand it through my own experiences. I hope it comes across right that what I mean is you use something that you've experienced and you just try to think it could be me. right? It could be my family. And whatever you look at, in any situation, like my family could be taken hostage, right? Could have been a hostage. My family could have been at a music festival. My family could be in Gaza. Like, oh, I don't know. There's so much more connecting us. If we lived in a different world that was structured differently, I really believe that most people could live together and be different, and that's fine, right? Not agree with each other, and that's fine, but not kill each other. We would have to find a way. But the whole structure would need to change for that. The whole structure would need to change for that. And it's that helplessness and that feeling which is so painful because we don't have the power to make that change. The structure isn't made for that. It's horrible to think that people are going to suffer. And sure, it could be us, but also realistically speaking, I'm speaking from Britain, it is unlikely. I'm not to say that it's never going to happen, but it's unlikely that the effects of these things are going to directly impact me in a way that it would for someone in the Middle East, right? Or somebody somewhere else. I don't know. It's just one of those. I feel awkward about. I didn't even want to come on last week because I was watching what was going on in Gaza and I was trying to keep up on it, and I didn't know if it's appropriate to come on here. And like I'll show you. I will go in a minute, but I'll answer some more things. So I got this. I managed to get hold of this magazine. I've been doing my Harry and Meghan stuff, and especially about how they are indoctrinating the children into these roles that they did not choose and they're too young to consent to. Right? He doesn't like the boy born to be king, Prince George, and the wording of this and the propaganda of it. And I've had this around for ages because I need to make a video. I've got other pictures and stuff of articles that I want to make. But how can I sit there and make an article, make a video about, the depiction of Harry and Meghan while this is happening? I mean, I know it's all connected, but it just all feels. Wish there was something I could do. I really wish there was something I could do so badly. It just feels like all the bad people in this world have the power, and all the voices for peace and goodness get smeared and told that they're childish or there's no way forward for that, or what do we even I don't even know what to do, sorry, I will go in a minute. um I'm gonna just check. I'm gonna put live chat on to make sure I'm seeing these properly. Okay. Sorry if I'm missing any of your questions. I'm not deliberately ignoring you, and I think Joseph's as well, and I think Hayden, was it Hayden or Annie, said that I think the chat said that if you send things in quick succession, I don't think, because they're moderating for spam, I don't have a moderator, so they might think that you're spamming something, so it might not come up. I'm not blocking anyone. I've not had to block anyone. I'll let you know if I get a weird person on here that I have to block. I'll just let you guys know. I'll be like, anyway, I just had to block somebody. But no, I think it's just the settings on that. I'll look into that for next time. I'm really sorry about that. What books do I have in the stack next to me? There's a stack next to me. I don't know which stack. Oh, I've got a lot of books. I'll show you what I've got a load of random books here actually. What have I been reading? So I've been reading The 100 Years' War on Palestine, which is a really good book about basically the history of the Palestinian people and our like British control, and I just think it's a really, really good, valuable book. I've been reading On Palestine, series of essays. Very interesting. I've been making a lot of notes, and a lot of it. I made notes on Friday the 13th. It says here, because a lot of the things they talk about in terms of historic abuses of Gaza, right, and the people of Palestine by Israel, and the techniques that are used, the propaganda techniques, it was really chilling to read this again and to see that they're still doing that. My mum just got back, by the way. I'm just going to put you on mute for a second and I'll say hello to her. I hope you didn't see me yelling. Mum just got back, so she's downstairs. I will wrap up in a minute. I'm reading Inglorious Empire, which, I mean, I've read all these already, but I wanted to go through again because it is the same colonial playbook, right? You tell people that these are people that are uncivilized, that they weren't there on the land, they didn't have their own societies, or if they did have their own societies, they'd be too dangerous, or they wouldn't be able to live alongside us. anyway, yeah, this is interesting in terms of India and the British Empire. Sorry, this one's dusty. Gaza, Norman G. Finkelstein, an inquest into its martyrdom. This is really relevant now. And I've got a load of books, actually. Jesus Feminist, which is basically the argument that I feel like the Christian right has taken a lot of Christianity as in, you know, the far right or the Christian right, like we are the only way to do Christianity. I personally think that Jesus was a radical. And that if he was around today, you know, he was born in a place that would be Palestine now. He was Jewish. He'd be a Palestinian Jew, actually, which is very relevant now. And he was quite a radical figure. And I don't think he would be a right-wing figure, really. That's my perspective. Jesus was a feminist. Let's put it like this. Women remembered. And I haven't actually got through these ones yet. I'm just reading them. I don't know if they're good or not. I haven't managed to get all the way through them. I've mostly been reading about Gaza. Just trying to educate myself on that situation. Okay. Let's have a look. What do I think would happen 255 AD if Prince George or one of the other royal kids turned out to be gay or trans? I hope that's not the case, simply because I think the British public, I don't know how the family would react, but I think the British public has been conditioned to be incredibly transphobic. I think they would see that as a problem if the representative of Britain ended up being trans. I think our tabloids would go into meltdown. I think they would attack. I mean, honestly, they're not even really allowed to choose anything about their life anyway, or to be themselves, or to find themselves. And I think they would get treated as selfish. If you can hear the bathroom, it's because I think Mum's gonna like have a shower or something. It's behind my bedroom, so that's what you can probably hear. What would happen? I don't know what would happen. I mean, I the only thing I can think which is good is that at least those children know that someone has already done it. Somebody's successfully gone out and has their family and escaped, and those people are there. So whether or not they understand that now or they ever do, I hope they realise that if they are different and they do think differently to the others and they don't want to be part of it, there is a way out, and they have got people out there who they can go to who understand. And that is something that the other generations haven't had. That's the first. And that's really hopeful, I think. Hi, Mrs. Claudia's mom. Thank you, Hayden. I'll pass that on. She's out of the loop. Lights in Gaza is great. I haven't read Lights in Gaza. I need to look at that. I'm trying to do as much reading as possible because I feel really hypocritical. You know, I don't want to come on here and like not be educating myself. I got a message from Dan's. He's waiting for my live to be finished. I think he's coming over. So that'll be good. People are being really nice on this. Thank you for your kindness. I kind of don't want to read out compliments because I feel it's not that I feel embarrassed. Like I'm really grateful for them, but also I feel like it would be really big-headed if I was reading them out. Like quiet, continue. Like, no, it wouldn't be quite right. So I am going to go because it's I did say I was going to do it till about 6:30. Let me just do one more quick check of the live chat. And again, I'm sorry to anyone who's light in Gaza. Thank you for that recommendation. I'll try and find that. If I can get a secondhand copy of that, I'll try to. A series of essays by Gazans. Yeah, that's because that's something I'm really conscious of as well. Wanting to be informed on stuff, but then also I'm also aware that like I don't want to be speaking over people at the same time, and that's a difficult balance sometimes because you want to be using your platform in a way that is helpful and that actually, you know, makes a difference. But then you also don't want to be like taking up space that's for other people, and it's I'm still navigating that stuff and trying to not make it about myself. And something I will say before I leave that I found quite distressing is a lot of people who I really respect and admire or have who are on social media have just continued their posting like nothing's happened without anything at all. And I see a lot of Doctor Who accounts actually that I love to follow, right? Because I love people who are like into Doctor Who stuff and I love following what's going on there. And to see them posting, it's not that they haven't been online, they've been online consistently, and all they've been talking about is Doctor Who while this is happening, and I just think the Doctor would be ashamed. What's the point of it's like when you think about these books like The Hunger Games and Harry Potter and Doctor Who and all these things, Star Wars even, what's the point? Sorry about the toilet flushing, but what's the point of that and having these heroes if when something like this happens, you can't even express humanity, not even politics, but to say ceasefire, right? Let's find peace, even if you're not educated on it. But to just sit that out when I know they're seeing it because they want to see which way it goes, they don't want to lose any brand deals or be controversial. And yet these are people who they look at the companions, they look at the Doctor, and they think of them as like their heroes. What show were they watching? Like what? I don't know. It just doesn't. It doesn't make sense to me. You know, we read these books, and yet people are just completely silent. I'm not saying you have to be like political on it, even, but a ceasefire to me isn't even political. Anyway, thank you for being here. Thank you so much for being here. I will give Dan love and well wishes. And also, like, I do get that people are going through their own stuff. I do understand that, and I don't. That's why I don't want to like directly like call people out. But to see people like talking about conventions and steelbooks and all this stuff, and it's like I know you're good people. I know you care. I know you connect with other human beings. I know you believe in these things. Just be brave. Be brave. I mean, it's not even bravery for us, is it? Like, what's it going to matter to just say ceasefire? It's not even political. You're not going to lose anything from saying ceasefire, right? People are talking about what's that man's name? I'm not the biggest Friends fan, but I believe one of the actors from Friends died. I really liked him. He seemed really nice. I saw this amazing quote by him about how he doesn't want to be remembered when he passed. He didn't really want to be remembered for Friends. He wanted to be remembered for helping people. I think he helped people overcome addiction and things like that. And that was really like amazing. And I was seeing people tweeting that and like saying about how what a sad loss he was. And it's like they weren't listening to him. It's like it's a celebrity dies and you can post that. I'm not saying don't post, but people are like, oh, let me post my favorite Friends stuff when they haven't posted anything about Gaza and they haven't listened to what he was saying, which is that what actually matters, like what matters is helping people. And surely that's what he would have wanted. That's how I'd want to be remembered anyway, I don't know. But I'm gonna go Matthew Perry, that's the one. I never really knew much about Friends. It was slightly I didn't have all like the channels and stuff when Friends was on. A lot of people in my generation love it. I like what I've seen. Chandler, I liked that character, but I haven't seen it like religiously or anything. But he seemed like a really good guy, I always it's very sad when someone passes and but it's nice when I'm getting a FaceTime call. I'm gonna decline it. That is Dan. I would go live on it. Sorry, Dan. I will literally pick up in a second. I am gonna go. But yeah, it's heartening sometimes when you hear about these people and you think that they've done these great humanitarian things and they've helped people with their lives. And I wish that would be what they'd be remembered for. But anyway, I'm going to end this now. Thank you so much for being here with me. I'm going to try and do one next Monday or the Monday after. I'll let you know. Love you loads. I will see you really soon. If I didn't get to you, I'm so sorry. I'm not ignoring you. The chat is just on a lag. Yeah. All right. Love you. Bye.